Hello, and here we are for part 16. And I thought what I'd talk about this time is sources of information and how reliable things are. And, we've been touching on this here and there, throughout the whole thing. And really speaking, we're looking at a lot, we're probably talking a vast majority of information around this case that we could all argue is flawed, that we can all say, well, that isn't 100% convincing anyone of anything. And of course, that works both ways. And that's what, needs to always be remembered, that, we read something, we hear something, someone says something, we don't automatically say, well, that's absolutely true then. I mean, I've done it in the past. You hear something, you think, oh, that sounds right to me. So you're going around saying, hey, guess what? This is what happened. This is what I found out. And you may end up, saying, oh no, it wasn't right after all. Because we, should really be sitting back and thinking, well, hang on a minute, let's just take a little while to really think about this and consider, why do I think it's true and where does it come from? Who's actually saying this? What's the source of the information? Because I do find that with this case that people will say it was definitely fake because of a certain source of information, but then we do need to point out, where is this source of information, and what makes that more reliable than things that contradict it. Yeah, and both ways, yeah, it always works both ways. Of course it does, because like we say, there's everything, for and against it. There is just as what's the word? Valid. It can or can't be validated. Can't be validated. It's not something that, verifiable or not verifiable, and so it's just something that needs to be, come out with a bit more fairness. Like we say, sometimes, we'll listen to something in the news and we'll think, well, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, but then there's other things we'll instantly say, well, I don't believe that. No, that doesn't sound right to me. Because it's all about, kind of how we take it and what we think ourselves. Sometimes it's like, might be something negative about our favorite rock star. So we jump to their defense. But if it's a rock star that we hate, we'll say, oh yeah, it must be right. Yeah, that this is kind of how society can be. And this is what still happens, and I've observed this quite recently in other Facebook groups, not ours actually, not so much lately, but people are still coming along and saying this was definitely a hoax because it was proved. Well, it was never proved. Nothing was proved, and could never be proved really, apart from the embellishments and apart from, the flaws in the famous deliveries of the story that were proved to be, yeah, well, that was added on, that was fake, or that was told inaccurately. Yeah, but it was never proved to be, a fake story. It just never was. And some will say, yeah, they admitted it. No, they didn't. They really, really did not. And that's what I can say as a fact. And it was certainly never, ever said publicly. They never admitted anything publicly. If something was maybe said privately behind the scenes, who knows? I mean, I can't validate that one way or another. But publicly, it was never confessed in that respect. George and Kathy took it to their graves, and the three children who are obviously now grown up, although, we don't hear from young Melissa, none of them have ever come out and said, well, we were forced to lie because it was all fake. That they still, insist that they had a frightening experience in that house at that time. And they are not for 1 minute saying, oh, our mum and our stepdad made up a load of lies and we had to go along with it. They've never ever said that. And so it can be a little bit annoying and frustrating when some people come along and say, oh, those poor kids, they were forced to lie. Well, where on earth have you got that from? Because you've only got to look into something a little bit to see that that wasn't the case. Because if it was, they'd be in a good position to say so now. To say, well, they're gone now, so we'll tell you the truth. But they haven't done that. And so that in itself, should be saying quite a lot. And I just, kind of certain things that come out, and we're hearing it, and we're like, oh no, are we still here? With you saying it was definitely a hoax because, like, well, it can't be definitely anything, because if it was, and if something was proved beyond a shadow of a doubt, then we would all be on the same page. We would all be in agreement. We'd all be saying, look, here's the evidence. Here's the absolute definitive version of the story that can't be doubted. So we've all got to believe it. We've all got to say, that's what it is, and that nothing's changing that. Yeah. But that is not the case. So although people will still come along and say, it was proved, or so and so said this, that, and the other, that is where people are really not getting the facts right. They're just not. I mean, the most anyone can ever say really is, I don't believe it happened, but who am I to say? Because it's still an open verdict. There's no evidence either way. So it is, very much how society is, isn't it? That some people, just want to hang on to certain information. The slightly annoying thing sometimes is when people will say, people like myself, you just want to believe it, don't you? You just need it to be true in your mind. Well, maybe years ago, yeah, maybe, because you don't want to feel that your favorite story and film and everything, is fake. You don't want to believe that. Yeah, of course you don't, But I mean, as we get older and more mature and more respectful and understanding of life, the last thing I would want to do is believe or want to believe that somebody went through such a horrific, frightening, life-changing, life-damaging experience. I really wouldn't want to wish that on anyone for the sake of my entertainment. I really, really wouldn't. So it goes from, sometimes it goes from being entertaining to just being fascinating in different ways. It just does. Sometimes we come away from the entertainment side and then look at the intrigue and the deeper sides to it. That can be very, very different. So it's a lot of different elements that we've got to consider there, really. Yeah. And I mean, there are people who are still saying, well, it was proved because the lawyer, William Webber, said so. Now, as I did mention briefly before in one of the earlier videos, he did say that, yeah. He did say, oh, it was absolute fiction, no truth in it all. I'm not going to go into it all now, but it's not that hard to look beyond that and look deeper and realize that, he had reasons to be saying that. He had professional reasons. He also had reasons along the lines of personal gripes to be kind of trying to out this family, or the couple, I should say, more so, out them as liars. Because when looked at in a different way, we could say, oh, he didn't get his own way, did he? Things didn't work out the way he wanted them to. And so, he turned on them. And, he was dismissed from the whole thing. They didn't want to do things his way. So he got his own back by calling them liars. Yeah, so again, I'm not saying it's absolute truth. I mean, because I can't prove it, but that resonates with me. And I do feel it makes a lot of sense when people do take a little bit of time to just look at it and really think about it, because like I say, everything about this has got a flaw or flaws of some kind that can all be analysed and picked to pieces. And we can always say, well, hang on a minute, that is not a definite fact, is it? That is not, evidence of anything, really. This is just a version. And the thing to remember here is there are quite a lot of versions when there's something as old and famous as this. I mean, best part of 50 years. Yeah, we're talking a lot of information. So again, let's just be looking at it all. When people are just confidently saying, it's definitely A, B, and C, instantly we've got to say, well, you can't possibly know that. The most you can say is, I believe this, but you can't say that you know it. It's just the way it is. Yeah. So again, that's what can open doors to new information that people haven't considered before. Yeah. So A little more to think about. Back soon. Thank you. Many blessings.